Welcome in, everybody, to Grind Time, powered by Full Time Fantasy and the FFWC. Just two captains here talking football, talking airplanes. We got our jumpsuits on. We're ready for some sky high plays this week. Mark, excited to have you on. Do you want me to call you Hilo? Do you want me to call you Mark today? I've always called you Hilo, and
Yeah,
so
whatever, man. I go with the flow. Hilo's my call sign from the military days.
well, then we're
So
doing
I
Hilo today.
let's go, dude. Let's go.
I'm excited to have you on. For those who don't know, Mark, he is an analyst over at One Week Season. He's a DFS guru, one of the sharpest minds in DFS that you can find. Excited to have you on. Talk some shop. We're gonna look at some of the injury reports because there's some doozies this week that are affecting the last couple weeks. Maybe people getting into the championship match for their home leagues, or if you're in high stakes, your shootout schedules. I mean, if you're out Jalen Hurts, you're kind of screwed in high stakes, but home leagues you can make some adjustments. So let's just hop right into it. Let's start with the quarterback position. So lots of news today. Ryan Tannehill is out, had ankle surgery today. So he snuck down to Alabama, apparently, had ankle surgery. The hope is that he's going to return here in week 18, but it is unlikely that he's going to play the rest of the season. This means that it could be the Malik Willis for the rest of the year. What is your maybe expectation for Malik Willis moving forward, and how does this affect the offense as a whole?
The Titans are in a bad place, man. They've already had a rough 4 to 6 weeks over the past, month or month plus. And now they have to adjust, and they're in the thick of the playoff race in the AFC, and they've got to make some things happen. But their defense is not playing well. They've had some injuries on the back end. They've had some injuries in the linebacker unit, and now they have to deal with the loss of their starting quarterback. And we saw kind of just a little glimpse of what the offense is going to look like earlier in the season. What was it? Week 7 and week 8 when Malik Willis jumped in there, and that the offense struggled to move the ball. And it's going to be expect a heavy dose of Derrick Henry, and it's going to be trying to manage the clock, trying to manage the game. And they're not going to, they don't want to lose the game on offense. And I think they're just going to utilize Malik in kind of this game management, hand the ball off and try and get some RPO, some pre-snap motions to lighten the box a bit as much as they can. But it's really going to be Derrick Henry versus stacked boxes. It's gonna be tough sledding for him.
It is going to be tough sledding, and you have to worry about Derrick Henry's body. He's already starting, he has the foot injury he was recovering off of. You can tell he hasn't been 100%. It hasn't been utilized in at least in the same manner we saw in the beginning of the year. He's still, the big dog, and he's still getting his piece. Don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't seem to be the same player that I'm expected from Henry after seeing what he did at the beginning of the year. And I think that they're going to have to lean on him more with Willis in there. But my bigger concern is, how does this affect someone like Treylon Burks, who's now coming back off of injury from concussion this week? Do you think that he is worthy of a flex spot this week, or no?
It's a tough spot because the last time Malik Willis was in the lineup, Treylon Burks was not, but they still only attempted 26 combined passes in those 2 games. So this is already a low pass volume offense that is taking another hit. So it's tough. It's obviously comes down to who you got and who your alternatives are, but I would not be looking to start Treylon Burks this week.
And for those of you who just joined us, looking at us like, what the hell are they wearing? They're in jumpsuits. They have sunglasses on. It's midnight Eastern. Are these guys on a good bag? No, I'm a pilot. Mark was a much more sophisticated pilot than I was. He was inside the Air Force. What kind of planes did you fly?
I was a backseater for the Navy in the F-18s.
Nice.
I flew about 10 years, 2 combat deployments. Got to go around the world, travel, have fun, and now I'm in the reserves, so it's family time now.
Do you still get to fly?
I don't. I could if I wanted to, not through the Navy. It'd be mostly civilian sector for me now. It's just with the proficiency and with the currency issues, the reservists don't really get to fly much unless you have specific orders. So I didn't want to leave a job where I was gone half the time and then be gone half the time. So sadly, unless like World War III happens or some shit with India or the stuff going on with Russia and China, if that kicks off, then they'll probably train me up again. But I'd have to go probably through a full refresher syllabus, about 10-month retraining before I go fly again.
Do you fly any on like personal level? Like, do you fly 172 at all, or you get out anything serious, anything?
No, I've got about 40 hours in a 7.2, but that was all during initial flight training. We train civilian side before we even step foot in a military aircraft.
Nice. Yeah, I had about 130 hours in a 172. I just hit roughly 70 hours almost. I'm just shy of 70, so I just hit 200 hours total, and the remaining 70s in a Columbia 400.
Okay.
Love that plane. It's the only downfall is they discontinued it and they're not making it anymore.
Yeah, parts.
And parts are
Parts
a
are
bitch.
expensive. Yeah, I know how that is. The Navy knows how that is.
So that's my only gripe with this plane. Otherwise, it's essentially a cheaper version of a Cirrus, but it can go faster. Yeah. It can go faster. The speed brakes are really nice. Like I can be up to any speed, and I can throw those speed brakes in and get down quick. I can
Hit the brakes, will fly right by, man.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's not F-18 fun, but it's civilian fun.
Yeah, so I had about 2,000 hours when I got out in the F-18. And it was fun, man. But I was gone. My wife is 36 weeks pregnant now with our fifth.
Wow!
And so we were. It was time to settle down and have some time with the family.
All right, back to football.
Yeah, we digress.
We digress. Jalen Hurts' shoulder is ruled out. Minshew Mania time, I think. They're now saying that we are expected to see Jalen Hurts out next week as well. So that was a kick in the nuts for high stakes players. For those at home leagues, how much do you trust Minshew Mania?
When we look at historical tendencies is really 2 games of Gardner Minshew with the Eagles, and that happened in weeks 13 and 13 and 18 last season, I believe. And the Eagles had a 46% pass rate. I think it was 46.1% pass rate with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. So we can expect, I think, with the matchup this week with a good Dallas team who is also going to be looking to control the ball to kind of dictate the game environment on their terms. I think we see the Eagles kind of return suit here. So it's a boost to the Miles Sanders owners. It's a boost to Miles Sanders and DFS. I would expect that the Eagles are going to try and manage things with their really, if you look at what Gardner Minshew is, he's kind of a first read, one read quarterback. Kind of below average pocket presence. He takes sacks. So with the vaunted pass rush over with Dallas, I should expect that we see an increase to rush rates. We see kind of the potential for him to really glom onto a pass catcher because he is this first read quarterback. So whether that's going to be Goddard, whether that's going to be Devontae Smith, whether that's going to be AJ Brown, we don't really know. But what we do know is Dallas defense has some injuries that they're dealing with. Leighton Vander Esch is out. He's been ruled out. Micah Parsons was limited this week, did not practice Tuesday and Wednesday with an illness. The other edge that they have on the outside, I forgot his name, but he was an addition to the injury report on Thursday, so a late addition with an illness as well. So they've got some things going on the Dallas defensive side. So we might see just like a game plan from each of these teams that they're just trying to manage. They're trying to sustain drives. They're trying to play keep away. So I'd expect we're going to see probably somewhere in the 25 to 28 pass attempt range for Minshew. We're probably going to see a heavier reliance on the ground game. And that kind of saps a little bit of the upside out of all the skill position players not named Miles Sanders.
Yeah, and then you have to think about the comments that Nick Sirianni had echoed this week in regards to not getting Miles Sanders the ball enough. Tied in with the Minshew Mania week, you'd have to assume, like you mentioned, the uptick in usage for Miles Sanders this week. That being said, though, I think that Gardner Minshew is fairly sneaky. He's been sneaky good in his active games. I mean, dating back to 2019, he played 12 games. He had just under 3,300 yards, 21 TDs, six INTs, only about a 61% completion percentage. And then in 2020, he played 8 games, 2,500 yards roughly, 16-5 touchdown INT ratio, 66% completion percentage. And then, in his 2 games last year, you hit the hammer on the nail when you said 2 games, 439 passing yards in those 2 games, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, that's a 41-12 touchdown interception ratio, which is pretty damn good. You look at his touchdown rate, 4.76%. That's top 16 right now in today's 2020 NFL. Last year, that would have been good for quarterback 13. So you look at what he has. He has the weapons. He has A.J. Brown. He has Devonta Smith. This is probably the most weapons he's had ever playing.
Yeah.
He's already played with Dallas Goedert before, so at least he has a familiar face on the field. Not to mention, Miles Sanders and Gainwell in the backfield. So I echo your sentiments about both these teams going into the game plan and trying to control the game. It's an division game. It's always a tough played. I would not be surprised to see a lot of ground game between the two of them, but Minshew does have the weapons to succeed, and I think he has the talent. I think he should be a starting quarterback in this league. I think he's demonstrated the ability to be one. He's just been in situations where he hasn't ever had the chance to really take the reins and run, quite frankly. So I like him this week more than others. I have him right now as quarterback 14 in my rankings, and it's a little more aggressive. I think it's only about +1 or 2 versus ECR, but overall, I really like his skill set, and I do agree he is a one-look guy, but he seems to find them. So if you are in home leagues, I would say feel pretty confident with Minshew Mania if he was your option. Moving on, Lamar Jackson is out for Week 16 versus the Falcons, so we got another Huntley week. Brock Purdy was removed from the injury report versus Washington. I've been impressed with this kid, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but his progressions, he's working through his progressions. He's got good footwork. He spins out of plays and extends the play, gets the ball down the field. Right now, would you say are his chances of starting next year?
I don't know, man. Probably 20% maybe.
Okay.
I think that if Jimmy G is
so you're
healthy,
saying there's a chance.
Yeah, there's probably a chance, but it's probably a lower chance than we'd like to assume. I mean, it's romantic, right? To think of, hey, Mr. Irrelevant 7th round rookie quarterback coming in. Like, imagine if he takes him to the Super Bowl. Like that would just be
that's
like
what I'm saying.
Yeah, that'd just be like a story made in heaven right there.
If he goes to the Super Bowl, what are the chances that he's a starter next year?
I would, probably 50-50 at least.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, probably at least, because like you look at the makeup of that team. Like, they are an elite defense. They have an elite run game. Now teams have to worry about, like, they have to account for CMC in addition to Debo when healthy, Ayuk, and George Kittle. It's like, what? Like, are you serious? This is a cheat code. And what really stuck out to me from Purdy was the ability to run the offense. And there were 2 plays in particular from last game that really jumped out to me. The first one was the double fake. So it was a fake left, a fake left, a fake right.
That's what the defense said after he did double pump.
Oh, shit. And you saw the linebackers and the safeties were going apeshit. They were lost. And then he hits Kittle down the seam for a touchdown. The second one was at the end of the first half when they got stopped, I believe, like 2 yards short of a first down. And they got stopped. It was 4th and 7. And he rushes to the line and right before the 2-minute warning. And he's like, get to the line. And then they draw the offside and they get the offside call. That is not like 7th round rookie quarterback stuff. Like, that was insane awareness. And he actually called off the sideline because they were going to bring the punt team on. He called them off, got his offense to the line, and then drew the offside. And then it's like, oh, well, now we have a decision. It's 4th and 2 at midfield. We can go for this and try and get 3 points. They ended up punting, but for him to have the wherewithal to call the punt team off and get his team to the line, because they didn't have to run a play. The game clock or the play clock had enough time to take them to the 2-minute warning. But no, he got his team to the line, called off the punt team, and then drew the offside. And I was like, what? This is a 7th round rookie quarterback doing that. So that was really, really impressive. So the kid's got some juice, man, for sure.
Yeah, I've been thoroughly impressed with him. I really like his skill set. I forget the guy's name. He used to be the beat writer for the Patriots. And he was there during Tom Brady's time and kind of his development. And he came out and said that this is the closest thing that he has seen to Tom Brady since he covered Tom Brady when he was with the Patriots. And I mean, hearing that as a Niner fan, of course, the red and gold back here just had
Yeah,
me,
right.
like, just freaking out. I loved it. And then I saw this meme and I just had to share it because I love it. Right here, Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, that's good.
So
That's good.
gotta love Brock Purdy. All right, let's keep it going again. We got running backs out. Jeff Wilson, hip is questionable after getting in a pair of limited practices. I expect him to play, but I do not expect a full workload. Latavius Murray, foot questionable versus the Rams. Did not practice on Thursday, but got a full practice today. Gibson was removed from the injury report for Washington against the Niners, but it is a stout defense. Seattle, DJ Dallas ankle and Walker, ankle and back for Walker are both questionable, but expected to play versus the Chiefs.
Let's talk about that one real quick.
Yeah, let's go for it.
The Seahawks have not had a single game all season with 5 running backs active on game day. Since they called up 2 running backs, it was Wayne Gallman and Igwebuike. They called both of them up today, meaning that they have Kenneth Walker, they have DJ Dallas, they let go of Tony Jones, and they have Travis Homer, and then the 2 that they called up. So that would make 5 running backs. I highly doubt that they are going into this game against the Chiefs with 5 active running backs, particularly considering the state of their pass catching core. They obviously are without Tyler Lockett. They have Noah Fant, who only got in a single limited practice this week. They have Marquise Goodwin, who also, he was a full practice, then he went limited, and then he went DNP on Thursday. So he has wrist and ankle issues. So there's a lot of, I think, Pete Carroll games going on here, or gamesmanship. I do not think that both DJ Dallas and Kenneth Walker are going to be good to go here.
So who is the running back that you think is going to lead this backfield? It might be a 2-part question. Maybe it's one on the ground, one in the air. I mean, how involved is Homer going to be?
I mean, Homer is the established, clear passing down back. That's kind of his role on this offense. He also plays special teams. So with that, dual faceted role, I would think that he is going to be active. The fact that they called up 2 backs that are primarily between the tackles runners really has me pausing with Kenneth Walker. And there's just a lot of moving pieces, and we're probably not going to know because of how tight-lipped Pete Carroll is until 90 prior to the kickoff.
Interesting. Yeah, I saw both of them being activated. It definitely, back of your head, you start wondering, are they going to, have both of them inactive, even though they're said they're supposed to play? So fantasy manager is something to monitor as we go into tomorrow's matchups, because we don't want to be caught with another Alvin Kamara situation. It's not early like that, but we do want to make sure that we're monitoring the games. Nick Chubb foot will play versus the Saints. We had a bit of a scare earlier in the week, but it looks like he's on track to play. Damian Harris' thigh is now questionable versus Baltimore. If he plays, what does this do to Ramondre Stevenson?
I think that Ramondre is the lead back, and Damian would step into the change of pace, kind of between the tackles, only short yardage guy. Ramondre is just kind of the engine of this offense right now. So I don't see them bringing him any lower than 65-ish% of the offensive snaps.
Dobbins was removed from the injury report. He seems to have a stranglehold of this offense in this backfield. Though he does not look 100% to me. He does not have that breakaway speed that he once had. You kind of see him with a hitch as he's running down the field, kind of a little giddy up to him. He just doesn't look 100%. But getting the volume definitely has, still broke some runs. Could you imagine if he was 100%? He probably would have been, 120, 140 yards each game the last couple games. And so I really like what he's been able to do. I'm glad to see that he's back on the field and that he's fairly healthy now. Khalil Herbert actually was activated and now removed from IR. They're saying it's likely he suits up versus the Bills. If he's on the field, what are your expectations for him and for David Montgomery in this backfield?
Yeah, I mean, before Khalil got hurt, he was seeing 10 to 14 running back opportunities a game, and it was more or less.
He was the 7th leading rusher.
Yeah, it was more or less a near even split in that backfield. So I would expect it's his first game back off of injured reserve. They're probably not going to give him a full like 45-50% snap rate, but he's probably going to be involved here, particularly considering the game conditions there in Chicago.
Okay. Moving to receiver. Beasley was elevated to the active roster again. Is questionable. Julio Jones, his knee is questionable versus the Cards. He did get in 3 limited practices this week, so we expect him to play. Gage has been coming on hot as of late. What does this do to this wide receiver corps?
I have no idea, honestly. It's just such a wide range of expectations. Do they continue riding Gage after he blew away anything Julio has done all season last week? I mean, either way, this is the wide receiver 3 role on a supposed to be coming into the season a high-powered offense. They've really struggled in the red zone, obviously, this season. But yeah, I mean, whoever is the wide receiver 3 in that matchup, it has viability.
Yeah, I joked around
Don't know
last
who
week.
it's going to be.
I joked around last week and said Russell Gage is the receiver I thought he was going to be this year. It just took him 15 weeks to get there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was quite a delay in the beginning of the season. Speaking of delay, Sutton hamstring is questionable. Hinton is out. So do we expect Sutton to play tomorrow? It looks like he's leaning towards it.
I would think so. He's been kind of on the fringe over the past week and a half with this kind of I'm going to play, I'm not going to play. So I would think he plays. Possibility that he is not that full, like 85-90% snap rate player. But particularly considering Hinton is like the other primary perimeter guy with Judy running, half of his snaps from the slot. I would think that he's going to be involved here.
Okay. We have Nico Collins went to the IR today. He's done for the season, but good news is Brandon Cooks looks to be back. Questionable, but set to play. That being said, don't have many expectations. He has not had 75 yards since week 1. What are your expectations for Cooks in this offense this week?
I think he steps right back into the 80-85% snap rate range, and I think that the game environment very clearly sets up for Houston to increase their pass rates. And I'd expect Philip Dorsett to run opposite Brandon Cooks, and I'd expect Chris Moore to be playing that slot role.
It is kind of slimy.
Yeah, right. But their offense has been weird, right? Their offense has been really weird this season. Now, over the past 3 games, they're experimenting with Jeff Driscoll. They're running some like Taysom Hill-esque college type ball. So we really don't know overall what to expect, other than like I'd expect Brandon Cooks and Philip Dorsett to be in that like 75-90% snap rate range. And I expect Davis Mills to probably be closer to 28-32 pass attempts here.
I feel like they're at the point in their season where they're just like, fuck it. Let's see if this works. Let's just get out here and do this.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun.
And it makes sense, right? I mean, it took Chicago 6 weeks to get to that range. And then they're like, okay, let's figure out what works. And then they found something that's been working. Yep. And so, yeah, it makes sense for Lovey to start tinkering with some shit.
Olave hamstring ruled out. Jarvis Landry, his ankle IR now, out for the season. Game's supposed to be cold. Is Rashid Shaheed flexible this week, or is the weather scaring you away?
It's not the cold, it's the blistering wind. This is the only game that I think has an appreciable effect on how each team is going to approach it. When we talk about like weather is consistently overblown. Like the worry of weather is consistently overblown in the fantasy sphere, whether that's start sits, whether that's DFS stuff. That said, what really is the most important thing for what affects a game from the weather perspective is high winds. Typically, I'm not worrying about things until we get to like 25 knots sustained, about 28, 30 miles per hour, because that fundamentally affects how an offense can run. They cannot stretch the field. You're going to see clogged running lanes. You're going to see a defense react to the fact that a team cannot stretch them vertically. So if that's the case, and we have a Cleveland defense and a New Orleans defense that are bottom half of the league against the run this season, Cleveland's bottom 3, but New Orleans is no longer the stout run defense that they have been in years past. So the game environment sets up very well for each team to feature the run. The efficiency is highly in question because of the fact we can expect 7-8 man boxes. We can probably expect an increased involvement from Kareem Hunt behind Nick Chubb. I would expect, and this is going to lead into something we're going to talk about here shortly, but I would expect the team rolls with Taysom Hill as their primary quarterback, because that gives them at least some level of dynamism for their team, as opposed to a pocket passer trying to throw into 40-mile-per-hour sustained winds, which they're expecting. Obviously, we got to double check that in METARs and TAFs before the game. But yeah, they're expecting significant wins in that game. Makes sense with a massive Arctic cold front coming in from the north. They get that lake effect there off of Lake Michigan. So yeah, there's a lot of concern with that game. I would expect each team to lean on the run. I'd expect Taysom Hill, heavy doses of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt on the other side.
Yeah, I moved Taysom Hill up to like tight end 7. More than likely, he'll be moved up even higher based upon his involvement in the run game, because it's not like he's out here catching passes. He only has 11 targets on the year. He's primarily used in the run game, which is where he's been making his money, and they're going to have to lean on this game, like you just said. That being said, Alvin Kamara is also high in my ranks. I have Alvin Kamara right now at 9. More than likely gets moved up to around 7 in the morning, as depending upon the news with Damian Harris and how that's going to affect Ramondre Stevenson. So I agree with you. I think it's set up for a big run game. Every year we have a huge Alvin Kamara week down the stretch, and I think we're due here. And this might be the game with Cleveland. Cleveland has been pretty atrocious against the run. So definitely expecting a good game from the run. We have tight ends. Kylan Granson's out. Hayden Hurst is out yet again. We talked about Noah Fant already. David Njoku, so same game, is questionable at the knee. I'm expecting him to play. And then the last tight end is Goddard, who is activated and ready to roll versus Dallas. Let's hop into our starts of the week, and then we'll answer some questions. Who is your quarterback start of the week? Now, that's not someone necessarily that's going to be, top 10 or top 11. It can be, but who do you think it's going to be that's going to outproduce ECR, where the general public has him ranked?
Geno Smith. I got him at quarterback 5 for this week.
Nice. Okay. Why do you like Geno?
There's a lot going on with that game environment. We have a Seattle offense that is top in the league in pass rate over expectation over the last 6 weeks. They're playing an opponent in the Chiefs that is top in the league in pass rate over expectation over the full season. And regardless of the fact that he's missing Tyler Lockett, they have Marquise Goodwin banged up, they have Noah Fant banged up. This is still a team in full desperation mode now, fighting tooth and nail to regain that last playoff spot in the NFC. So they're playing the Chiefs. We're expecting a lot of passing. That's likely going to lead to higher than league average total number of offensive plays run in this game. So the volume, the rushing upside, all the things that we like to see, it just kind of all falls into place for Geno this week. And then you add in that kind of desperation factor, and I think there's significant upside here.
I like Geno. I have him, I think, sitting right now at 8. You usually tweak in the morning. He might move to 7, but we're fairly close in our ranks.
Yeah.
My quarterback this week is Aaron Rodgers. I have him as quarterback 9. ECR is at 12. Looking at Miami, they've given up the second most fantasy points to the quarterback position on the year, 305.8. In the last 2 weeks, they've given up the third most fantasy points to the quarterback position at 27.67. And despite this down year, as many would call Aaron Rodgers' 2022 campaign, he's still 8th in touchdowns. He's still 2nd in red zone completion percentage. He's still 9th in true passer rating, and he just slices up zone coverage, where he's the second leading passer against zone. So I still like Aaron Rodgers. He finally has his entire, I wouldn't say it's an arsenal of weapons, but he has his entire wide receiver core there, on the season. And so, you have both backs. I like the game versus Miami, and I think that it has some good potential for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, talk about desperation factor. And that game environment has the pieces, the tools to really turn into a shootout. So I like that call good bit.
Okay, next up, how about running back for you?
Back to kind of, or I guess what we talked about earlier with the Eagles, Miles Sanders. I have him a top 12 back this week.
Okay. I got Miles Sanders. Where do I have him? Let me go to my running back rankings. So running back right now, you have me said top 12.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm at 16 right now. But the guy I have ahead of him right now is the guy I want to talk about, Ezekiel Elliott. And had I not just mentioned his name, because a lot of people have that sour taste in their mouth with Zeke Elliott, and everyone's about Tony Pollard, and I get it. Tony Pollard looks amazing, but
It's a beautiful
let's just
man.
it's let's just pretend I didn't say Zeke Elliott's name. I'm going to read you these finishes that he's had since week 11. Running back 8, running back 13, running back 8, running back 12, running back 16. I know he's not, what he used to be. He's almost a shell of himself, but he continues to fall into the end zone. He's got 9 touchdowns in the last 7 games. Philly's kind of the middle of the pack defense against the running back. They've been proven they can be ran on. They've tied in the 11th most touchdowns that they've given up on against the running back position. We look at the usage with Zeke too. He's pretty much guaranteed 16 carries a game, 3 to 5 targets. He gets almost most, if not all, the red zone touches. He had 4 red zone touches last week, 8 in week 14, 3 in week 13. And his route participation is usually around 30%. So I know there's been a lot of folks down on Zeke, and rightfully so, because Pollard looks amazing. That being said, I still think he is a solid RB2 contributor, especially against Philly.
Yeah, and I think there's still a lot of misconceptions with that offense. There are 3 teams that have had a below league average pass rate over expectation in every game this season. The Falcons, the Bears, not surprises, and the Cowboys.
Interesting. I would not have thought the Cowboys if you would have just randomly quizzed me. Bears would have been an easy one, right?
Yeah.
How about wide receiver for you?
Wide receiver, we're gonna get we'll go with this one. Marquise Goodwin. We talked about Seattle. I talked about Geno Smith. So nice correlation to a wide receiver who's probably stepping into an 80-85% snap rate role. We should expect, or at least I would expect, the Seahawks to run primarily from 12 personnel here. That's getting Will Dissly and Noah Fant on the field together. But they still got to have a couple of wide receivers out there, right? And Marquise Goodwin, this season, he's played more than 55% of the offensive snaps 5 times. 2 of those games came against San Francisco, where he put up a combined 2 catches. Against the other 3 opponents, he's averaged just over 20 fantasy points per game. So this is a guy that is a track star. He's fast AF, probably looking to get him the ball in his hands, within the first couple yards of the line of scrimmage, and seeing what he can do in YAC against a primarily zone coverage KC defense that relies heavily on communication. And there's kind of 2 ways to rack up YAC. It's communication errors against zone defense, and then just plain beating your man-in-man coverage. So there is opportunity for Marquise Goodwin to put up a fairly nice fantasy game here.
Man, I like that you said that, because I was kicking myself after Thursday Night Football. I benched Evan Ingram in a flex position in one league for Goodwin, thinking exactly, he's going to be heavily involved. He's probably, 38th, 39th receiver overall this week. I like the matchup, like everything about it. And then Evan Ingram goes and puts up, the massive game. And I've been staring at the points, since last night. And then I see the injury report, and I'm like, oh man, I think I made a mistake. Right?
Oh dear God. I immediately regret this decision.
Exactly. Milk was a bad choice. And so I immediately regretted it, but I'm hoping he can at least, get fairly close to the production that we saw out of Evan Ingram last night. Yeah. My receiver this week is Drake London, and although he's been kind of vanilla, middle of the pack, kind of like wide receiver 35 every week, I like what he was able to do with Ritter last week. So 42.3% of the target share is what he saw, right? Massive.
11 targets on 23 pass attempts.
Yeah, 11 targets. Unfortunately, it only equated to 70 yards on 7 catches, but you have to like the usage. You look at his snaps last week, 81%, but he did see 86% in week 13. Route rate last week was 76%, where he had 88% in week 13. 103 air yards last week, 196 in week 13. Where am I going with this? The usage is there. The fantasy points have not followed, but these metrics are indicative of fantasy points soon to come. That's why I really like Drake London. I continue to put him higher in my rankings, because I feel like we're getting close to a blow-up game. He just needs that touchdown, which we haven't seen here in quite some time. But I really do like Drake London this week.
Yeah, and it's easy to forget, too, that the Falcons are still not eliminated mathematically from the playoff picture in the NFC South. So, there's a bit of desperation factor for the Falcons here as well. You could say what you want about Desmond Ritter. He's probably the best like pocket presence of the rookie quarterbacks in the sense like his awareness in the pocket. That said, like does not really have plus arm strength, and this is an offense that is very clearly biased towards the ground. They just lost Caleb Huntley, but he hasn't really been too involved in the offense. So it is what it is. I mean, he's a top 10 wide receiver in targets per route run rate. He's a top 10 wide receiver in team target market share. It's just if this team were ever going to increase their pass rate, this would be the game where they would do it. So yeah, I like that call a good bit.
How about tight end? Last position, then we'll get to the start set questions in the chat.
It's got to be Taysom, man. It's got to be Taysom. He's a top 3 tight end if he is the primary quarterback, that's like a riddle. Like, but if he's going to be the primary guy, which I think there's a pretty significant chance of that being the case here. There's been reports from New Orleans beat writers that that's a possibility. They're just guessing like I am, but like looking at this game environment, looking at another team that's not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs in the NFC South, fighting for a win in kind of hostile conditions. Like I could see them just rolling Taysom out there and being like, go give us 14 to 16 carries and hand the ball off to Alvin Kamara. And that, I think that gives that offense a more dynamic look than Andy Dalton in wind.
Yeah, I hope you're not right, but I think you're going to be right because I was blocked. I was blocked in a 1K dynasty league. They picked up 5 quarterbacks because I had Jalen Hurts, and they left me with Andy Dalton as like my. It was it's like the 5th one in priority, and so unfortunately, I'm rolling out with Andy Dalton this week. So sorry. We shall see what happens. Mine's Noah Fant, and kind of everything that you mentioned earlier with the Kansas City game, the lack of weapons, people banged up. Fant, has definitely been coming on strong as of late. I expect his usage to increase as long as he is active. I expect him to be active, but I do expect his target share to increase, his route run to increase. I agree with you. I think they're going to run a lot of 12 personnel as well, and so I would expect Fant to have a pretty good game here versus Kansas City.
Dig it.
All right, let's hop in the chat. Everyone here is anxious. We have a ton of questions. So we're going to hop through these. Feel free to go in as deep as you want with each question, or if you want to do rapid fire, just shout the answer out and we'll go from there. So cool. First question is from Valentino, half PPR, Mostert or Evans?
That's real close, actually.
It is close, yeah.
That's real close.
And let's answer this 2 ways. Like let's say Wilson is active, which way do you go? And if Wilson is inactive, which way do you go?
I think if Wilson is straight up inactive, I think you have to run with Mostert. If Wilson is active, he probably has enough of involvement to lead me to Mike Evans.
Okay, I am 100% agreeance with you there. Next question is from David. PPR, pick 2 to start. A.J. Dillon, Latavius Murray, Dante Foreman, K.J. Osborne, Marquise Goodwin, or Khalil Herbert?
Ooh, probably Dillon and Marquise Goodwin.
Okay. I was going to say Dillon and Lat Murray. There's no Aaron Donald this week either, so it opens up the front a little bit more for Denver. I do like Goodwin, though. It would be my 3rd option, though. So
yeah, I have an issue with playing running backs on teams that are implied for under 3 touchdowns. It's just like it's hard to pull the trigger there.
Fully get it. So there you go. We're split here, David. You get to be the deciding vote. Pick 1, Amari Cooper, Kenneth Walker, or Christian Watson?
Christian Watson, that's kind of your best option. I don't feel great about it, but it's Christian Watson.
Yeah, we talked about the weather with the game with Cleveland. You mentioned the top of the hour when we first got on the show about Kenneth Walker and all the running backs being active. So if you missed that, go ahead and rewind back to the beginning of the pod where Mark discussed his concerns about Walker and the active backs in Seattle. I didn't answer the question. I go Watson as well because he scored 6 touchdowns or something? I can't even count.
He's fast and he scores touchdowns.
It's kind of hard to bench him right now.
Yeah.
I wasn't even a big Watson guy.
Man, that play at the end of the game too, last game. Oh my God, I was screaming at the TV. I'm a Packers fan. You could tell by the Packers green behind me. It was like, dude, turn around.
Oh, it is green. The glasses kind of made it look gray. Defensive question: Dallas or Browns? I think it has to be Browns this week, right?
I kind of actually really like Dallas.
Okay.
I think they're going to get pressure on Minshew. We just talked about Minshew's kind of poor pocket presence that might take some sacks here. Um, the thing about defensive scoring is a lot of people look at it from a point suppression standpoint, and really the bulk of defensive scoring comes from
Turnovers.
turnovers. And how do you get
Yep.
turnovers? You get turnovers, pressure in the backfield. So Dallas going to be living in Minshew's chili here, even with the injuries to kind of outside linebacker Micah Parsons and the edge on the other side. I forgot his name again, but yeah, I think. Do we expect the Browns to shut out New Orleans? Probably not. Probably not here. So, and the fact that they're probably not going to be calling a lot of pass plays reduces the chances for sacks, reduces the chances for interceptions, reduces the chances for strip sacks, which is the highest rate of the most likely to lead to a fumble return for a touchdown as a strip sack. Just because when the ball comes out, there's nobody behind the player who's scooping the ball. So that's why you see strip sacks return for a touchdown at a higher rate. So the fact that we don't expect a lot of dropbacks from New Orleans is probably going to suppress the Browns scoring here.
You have me convinced. I was going to say Browns, but after your little statement there, I definitely would agree with you. I think then I would lean Dallas after that statement. Let's go ahead and go DeAndre Swift or Rashad White.
Swifty, baby.
Yep, Swift for me as well. I think Rashad White is just, it's hard to trust him right now. And I understand Swift, the same thing, but we have seen an increase in snaps. And so, lines have been pretty hot. I'm going to lean Swift here as well. They're asking for your call sign again.
Hilo. It's Hilow, right? Right there. Hilo.
There we go. KJ Osborne or Neon Dion. I think is that Deion Jackson?
Deion Jackson? It's got to be, right? There's
so.
not many other Deons left. Showtime? What? Dude, KJ Osborne is tough to recommend this week.
Yeah,
I think
it's hard to trust.
The usage that we saw last week came at the direct detriment to Adam Thielen and TJ Hawkinson. And those two have such a commanding role over the short to intermediate middle of the field, which is kind of where KJ Osborne lives, which is weird for an outside wide receiver. We saw a lot of slants. We saw a couple of timing throws to the outside back shoulder last week, but that didn't happen until they were in full desperation mode. So they didn't have KJ working over the middle of the field. I would say tentatively Deion Jackson in a plus matchup against the Chargers.
Okay, I was leaning Dion as well. I don't fully trust either of them, but I do think that Dion probably sees about 40% of the snaps, roughly, and is at least going to have a little bit more of a guaranteed role versus KJ Osborne. I lean Dion here, but I don't really like either option, quite frankly. How about Titans defense or Dallas defense?
Probably Dallas.
Okay,
got to grow Dallas. I mean, they're a top 3 defense in the league. Yeah, they're banged up a little bit, but I'm still rolling Dallas here.
Okay, Rodgers or Dak this week? I like Rodgers. I have him one spot ahead of Dak in my rankings.
Yeah, I mean this goes back to what I previously said about the Cowboys. They're kind of a misperceived offense in the sense that they are 100% a run first offense. They are going to want to control the ball, and their offensive line is healthy to where they can do that.
Here's a good one: Minshew or Goff this week?
Dude, these are like back to back for me.
I have them back to back too.
Flip a coin territory. I lean Goff. There's a lot of concern being thrown around about Goff's home road splits, about his splits in the cold. I don't pay any mind to that, honestly. There's so much noise with that. His home and road splits and the Detroit Lions offense home road splits are highly, highly influenced by being shut out against New England and by scoring 6 points against Dallas. That could have happened at home. That could have happened on the road. It's just they were playing top 3 defenses at that time in the season. And you look at his home road splits. This is like, I don't like extrapolating or like removing data points, but like you remove those 2 games, his home road splits look fairly similar here.
I love that you said flip a coin because I actually tell subscribers to do that. If I've gone down like all the avenues of and it's like neck and neck and it's I've already exhausted all my tiebreakers, I literally tell people to flip a coin.
Just leave it over to variance, man. Flip a coin, hit that random number generator. Let's go.
I love that you said it because people literally look at me and be like, "But I'm asking, you're supposed to know the answer."
Yeah.
It's like, no, flip a coin.
What kind of shitty analyst are you?
I'm a gambler, man.
Let's go, dude. I love it. Spin a ball on the roulette wheel. Let's go. Red, it's Goff. Black, it's Minshew. Green, you forfeit.
See, I'm not alone in the flip a coin mentality. I gotta love it. All right, let's take a look. This one's pretty easy for me. It's Minshew or Fields, and it's 100% Fields for me.
Fields.
Yeah, Fields. I think it's like my top 4. Let me see. I have met.
He's 4th for me.
I met 3 actually against Buffalo. Yep. So, about 10 spots separated between him and Minshew for my ranking. So pretty easily Colt there for you. How about, let's see here. A lot of that was just people thanking us. Thielen, Chark, Marquise Goodwin.
It's Goodwin for me, man.
Okay, I like it. Yeah. I just don't trust Thielen. Like every week I'm like negative ECR on him.
He was my highest owned wide receiver in best ball this season, and I just kind of like, I'm sorry, bro. Like he started like he's still playing all the freaking offensive snaps, but he's just not commanding any targets, dude. Yeah. Which makes sense. I mean, we have basically a Sean McVay system coming in. We saw how Sean McVay utilizes Cooper Kupp, and Justin Jefferson is that guy for them this year.
Makes sense. Yeah, I would have had it between Goodwin and Chark, just because I don't trust Thielen, but I would lean here with Goodwin as well, depending upon if he's active, of course. But we expect him to play, and against Kansas City, we're expecting significant usage here in the passing game with no Tyler Lockett. Let's move on. Starting Marlon Mack over Rachaad White if Murray sits. I don't think Murray sits, though.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes if he sits, but I think he plays. It might be in a more limited capacity, but I think he plays. And so the answer is just Rachaad White. On that, it's kind of weird in Tampa Bay because Rachaad White and Leonard Fournette have kind of had a little flippening here. Like,
yeah, they flipped again.
Rachaad White was kind of thought to be like the third down pass game usage back, and he's getting the between the tackles carries outside of short yardage stuff. And then Leonard Fournette is the kind of third down pass catching back. I don't know if that has to do with Fournette's injury, if that has to do with his knees giving out because he's a big boy. I don't know what it is, but that's kind of what we've seen over the past couple of weeks is like they've had this kind of flippening in their roles.
Yeah, it's interesting. I even looked at my rankings. I moved Fournette back ahead of White for the first time in a few weeks. I think I had him at like 22nd this week just because of his involvement in the passing game. Yeah. And Arizona gives up, a ton of fantasy points to the running back position. So I actually expect, to be fairly high on Fournette versus ECR. I almost put him in place of Zeke today, but chose to go with Zeke and everything happening in Philly. Next question, Dulcich or Fant?
Fant for me, hands down.
Man, Dulcich is such a good talent, but they don't. Denver sucks.
They just suck, dude. And Russ has given up, dude. He for the first time all season, he ended a press conference with "Go Broncos." It was not Broncos country. Let's ride.
Well, they were giving him shit for that. They were like telling him it was insensitive.
Broke, dude. He finally broke. It's like the whole team is broken. They even broke Russ, dude.
It was even after no one showed up to his party. He's like, "Fuck this. I'm not saying Broncos country anymore." He's all butthurt.
Yeah, Broncos country. Fuck you. You don't chew Big Red.
Who was the Yankees pitcher that walked off the mound flipping everybody off back? I forget his name. That was it's probably about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I forget his name. That's what it reminds me of.
I don't remember.
I'm blanking on his name. It's going to drive me nuts. But that's what it's right. He's literally off the mound, just flipping everyone off at his home stadium.
Yeah.
How about Judy or Mike Williams?
Big Mike, dude.
Yep, I like Big Mike as well. Taysom Hill over Waller?
I mean, Taysom is a top 3 quarterback if he plays like as the primary quarterback.
So let's just just kind of play with me here. Let's say that he does not play quarterback, or he does on limited situations. Mm-hmm. He's in there on their typical red zone packages they like to do, or third down conversions, or short yardage. Let's just say they use him in the creative package, but maybe add in a few extra snaps. So let's just say he's playing 40% of snaps, but he's rotating in at quarterback, not operating as the primary quarterback. Where do you have him ranked?
Dude, that's tough because it's probably the difference between like 8 to 10 carries in that situation.
Yep.
So like he's probably in the 4 to 7 carry range if Andy Dalton is the quarterback. If they are just committing to Taysom, he's probably seeing 12 to 14 carries. So that's a pretty significant difference. He's probably tight end 13, somewhere around there. Like he's probably outside the top 12. So it would most likely be Waller. So this is a like, what do you think is going to happen? Read the tea leaves, do some meditation, find the ohm. I don't know what they're going to do, but the upside play.
Come on, Mark. You're supposed to have a crystal ball.
I think if you're projecting to lose this matchup, you should roll with Taysom because he is the higher upside. If you think you just need floor out of tight end, you need to get your 8 to 10 points and move on, just play Waller.
That's usually like how I like to answer questions. It depends upon what you need as the fantasy manager, right? If you're hitting a home run, go with Taysom. He's one of the most infuriating people to rank. It's like, because like I'll be down on him one week, and then he gets like 7 carries and like a 40-yard touchdown, and he's like tight end 4, right? And then it's like, God, he didn't even fucking get any targets, and he's still tight end for somehow. And then you see him, the following week, and he's like, tight end 28. And then he's very dependent on the run, very dependent on that touchdown. Because if it doesn't come, I mean, he's bottom of the tight end rankings. But if it hits, now he's in the top 7, 8, 9 tight end rankings. And to your point, if he does operate as the main quarterback, there's really no way that he's outside the top 3. And so it's infuriating as an analyst and a ranker, to rank Taysom Hill. I wish you could just put him in at running back. It's more consistent there.
Dude, he could legit be any. They should like utilize like baseball lineup settings where it's like he's
utility.
He's shortstop, second base, third base, and first. You could play him anywhere.
That'd be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, that would be interesting. It's like Shohei Ohtani, but NFL version.
I like that. Okay, next one we have is Pacheco or Thielen. Pacheco pretty easily for me.
Yep.
Cole also saying Merry Christmas. Next one we have is Sutton, Goodwin, Moore, or Palmer. Need one.
Ooh, this is like 3 of these guys are like wide receiver 3s, and then 1 wide receiver 4 probably in Joshua Palmer. So it's between Sutton, Goodwin, and Moore. I would lean Goodwin. I don't think you would go wrong with Moore, and I think I would just eliminate Cortland Sutton based on health and availability.
I'm checking my rankings right now where I have all these guys actually.
I'm just going off the top of the dome.
Yeah, Moore I have right now at 41. Who is the other one? Well, you got the screen
Goodwin.
up? Goodwin. Goodwin's 42. That doesn't do me any good.
Sutton's probably 46, something like that.
Actually, I have him actually outside because I wasn't expecting him to play. But now with the news that he's probably going to be 51-ish.
Yeah, and then Josh Palmer's probably somewhere around there too. So yeah, so there's like a bunch of guys in the same tier.
Palmer's literally 43 right now. So I have 41, 42, and 43 in my rankings. And then one's going to be 51. I lean Chris Moore because Tennessee is very exploitable against the pass. That being said, though, with Malik Willis, they may not. This may be a pretty quick game with a lot of run, and so I'm not too confident in Chris Moore. I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm gonna adjust my rankings by tomorrow, and Goodwin will probably be ahead of all these guys. Yeah,
I think floor you go Chris Moore. He's probably the low A-dot slot guy. Ceiling you go Goodwin.
Okay, I like that call. Taysom or Freiermuth. I think this goes back to the Waller thing. If you're looking for a ceiling, play Taysom. If you're looking for a floor, is it Freiermuth with Pickens back?
I think so. I mean, and it depends on the game environment because Freiermuth really picks up involvement in the offense when they are trailing late. You've seen multiple like fourth quarter drives where it's like just get the ball to Freiermuth over the middle of the field, see if he can get out of bounds. And it's like,
and it also depends upon Deontay Johnson, right? We expect him to play tomorrow, but there's always the chance that he is a surprise inactive. If that's the scenario, I probably lean Freiermuth here.
Yeah, he's safer for sure.
Okay, how about Goodwin, Rashad White, A.J. Dillon, or Mack?
Dillon is the floor piece. probably closely followed by Rashad White, and then I think Goodwin is the ceiling piece here.
Okay, I like that as well. How about Ayuk or Drake, London?
Ooh, this is tough, and this is probably goes against consensus, but I'd say Drake, simply because Ayuk is the one guy in this San Francisco offense that is not seeing schemed usage with
Yeah,
Brock
it's
Purdy.
kind of been just kind of eliminated from the equation.
Yeah, so people might think like, oh, without Debo, it's Ayuk here, but without Debo, it's CMC and it's George Kittle. Ayuk is kind of just running sprints out there because he
Getting
hasn't
his
been.
cardio in.
Yeah, he hasn't been the first read on a high rate of their pass plays. And when Brock Purdy is feeling the pressure, he's dumping it down to CMC. And a lot of the schemed usage without Debo on the field is going to George Kittle. So, yeah, I lean Drake here.
Okay. I lean Drake as well. I think my rankings have it swapped, but I just talked about the reasons I like Drake London and haven't fully adjusted those ranks for tomorrow morning. They'll be updated as soon as this pod is over and then into the morning, as always. But I would lean Drake London in this scenario as well. Got to love the usage that he saw with Ritter. Next question, Pacheco or Montgomery? Singletary's out of the equation for me. So Pacheco or Montgomery?
Singletary is actually really, really intriguing to me. He
Okay.
went through that 2 or 3 game stretch where he was seeing 40% offensive snaps. Before that, he was seeing 75, 80% offensive snaps and running back opportunities. And then last week, he trickled up into the 60% snap rate range. So the team is very clearly trying to figure out what they're going to do with Nyheim Hines. They involved him. They were running 21 personnel in the red zone with Nyheim Hines and James Cook on the field. Singletary was out of the equation for a couple of games in the red zone. Then they went back last week, and Nyheim Hines saw 3 offensive snaps. He caught a 10-yard touchdown on one of those snaps, but he was on the field for 3 offensive snaps, and he's kind of just their return guy right now, which is like, why did they go out and get him?
I was so confused by it. It made no sense so far.
Yeah, that situation is weird. But that being said, there's a lot of nuance here, I think, in that game environment, in the way that Chicago has been one of the more fluid and dynamic defenses this year, adjusting their game plan per the opponent. Their man zone rates have shifted all the way from like 50% man to like 8% man this season. And they've been everywhere in between. You talk about a game against Buffalo, who has a mobile quarterback, they have all these pieces, and then you factor in the weather. I would guess that we see a higher rate of zone coverage from Chicago with lower blitz rates and a more contained style offense. What that usually leads to is Buffalo is a very, very dynamic and fluid offense with how they call plays. So what that usually means is that's where you see the Isaiah McKenzie games. That's where you see the Devin Singletary 11 target game from earlier this season. So Singletary is actually kind of interesting to me here. Half PPR, that takes away a little bit of Singletary. So the answer is probably just Pacheco regardless. But for all the Singletary owners out there, for the DFS guys, Singletary is pretty interesting to me this week.
Interesting. So, yeah, I have in my rankings right now, I have David Montgomery at 22. I have Pacheco at 24. I like the matchup with Pacheco, but it seems to be that they have just fully gone with Jerick McKinnon. You know, that fumble was definitely costly, and they benched Pacheco because of it. But McKinnon has blown up. They seem to be the trusted back now in this offense. Singletary, although his usage is still increasing in Chicago, is the 9th worst defense versus the running back position in fantasy purposes. I still lean David Montgomery here just because of the usage. Now, Herbert coming back, maybe he mixes in. I don't expect the full workload like we mentioned earlier. We're not expecting 40% snap share. It's just not going to happen in his first week back from injury. But you still think that there's a lot of people out this week for Chicago as well. We didn't talk about it in the pod for time's sake, but there's 2 receivers out, so we might see significant increase in usage in the passing game for David Montgomery against Buffalo as well. So I lean Montgomery here. I have him 2 spots ahead of Pacheco, and then I have Singletary at running back 30.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, they're running out Dante Pettis and N'Keal Harry, and it's like their pass catching core is FUBAR this week for sure.
It's going to be another another Pringle week. We saw it late last year against
Yeah, Byron
Cincinnati.
Pringle.
It
Yeah,
was the Cincinnati it was I think week 17 stack is so what
yeah.
got me into the finals for best ball was that Cincinnati and Kansas City stack. So
Oh yeah, it just went off.
I have Byron Pringle on another one that's going to possibly make it to the finals again. So let's see. So hopefully I'm hoping for some Pringle.
Get yourself a Pringle jersey, dude.
Seriously, just cans of Pringles on my shelf back here.
Yeah. Pay homage to my dude.
How about Baltimore defense or Denver defense?
It's probably slightly Baltimore. I think they're in the same tier this week. I think it's splitting hairs. This is a flip a coin.
Okay. I think I'd lean Denver, but it's ever so slightly.
Yeah.
I don't like this. So should I roster two defenses to play the Bucks or Broncos over the Eagles? I don't ever like rostering two defenses ever.
Yeah. Wait, so you have, I'm trying to understand this. You currently have the Broncos?
I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused. I would say no, like just pick one and drop the other.
Yeah, I'm just reading it as two defenses is what I saw, and I don't like that.
Yeah. No me gusta. Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Just pick one defense. FanDuel 2v2, Cousins CMC, or Daniel Jones and Henry.
These are really tough because it's not as simple as a 2v2. I think the general consensus is to look at it as a 2v2, but you have to look at how all these pieces play in conjunction with the rest of your roster. Cousins, do you have Minnesota pass catchers? Are you playing to that game environment in the dome? With Derrick Henry, do you have like Brandon Cooks on the roster? Do you have other pieces that correlate well with Daniel Jones? There's just so much nuance for DFS roster construction that it's almost fruitless to give 2v2 answers. The answer is almost always it depends, unless I'm looking at a full roster.
Mark is definitely the DFS player. I am not a DFS guru. From a rankings perspective, I have Cousins and CMC in tandem ahead of Daniel Jones and Henry. That's all I can answer from that one. But I agree, you needed the roster to be able to answer that question. How about AJ Brown or Godwin?
Oh man, I think I have AJ Brown ranked over him, but if AJ Brown is the higher ceiling and Godwin is clearly the higher floor. So it depends on the rest of your roster, I guess.
Yep, I have one at 8 and the other one at 10. So I have AJ Brown slightly ahead.
Yeah.
And Godwin probably moves ahead of Lamb tomorrow once I finalize rankings because they're playing against Arizona. So I probably will have him back-to-back in rankings and everything said and done. But slight lean AJ Brown for me as well. How about oops, someone asked a question as I was clicking. Dobbins, Watson, or DJ Moore?
Full PPR. Eesh.
You gotta like the matchup,
probably
right? Detroit
DJ
game?
Moore.
Yeah.
It's probably DJ Moore. Just because it's full PPR, half it's probably Dobbins.
Yeah, and this could be another ceiling floor play, right? Because ceiling, we want DJ Moore probably. Floor, Dobbins is going to get 15 to 17 carries. Probably a little bit more of a floor. I mean, Watson could be considered a ceiling play as well. But gotta love the matchup versus Detroit here. I mean, Carolina's cold, but there's not a lot of wind, like you said earlier. We're primarily concerned about the wind, and so I have DJ Moore pretty high this week, and he's going to be moving up my rankings tonight as well.
And since Sam Darnold went into quarterback, DJ Moore is seeing like a 30% increase in his slot snap usage. Yes. And Detroit just absolutely gets shredded in the slot. So
they're the worst against the slot in the league.
Yeah, so DJ Moore.
Okay, like it as well. AJ Brown or Chris Godwin? Oh, it's the same question.
Sick question.
Slayton or Goodwin?
It's Goodwin for me, and this is against consensus. The fantasy industry seems very, very high on Daniel Jones and on Slayton, but how much time do we have? No, I'm just kidding. I could talk a lot about the expected game environment in Detroit or in Minnesota. Both of these teams are very, very conservative unless otherwise forced. And the Giants have kind of adopted this, like, kick the can down the road, we'll figure it out later type game management and season management. We saw it like in their overtime game against Washington. They're like, oh, we know we play these guys again in 2 weeks. let's just play conservative right now. We'll punt instead of going for it at midfield and overtime, all that stuff. But it's like they're very, very conservative, and they're just trying to not lose the game in the first 3 quarters and try and see what happens, see which way the ball bounces in the fourth. And on the other side of that, it's like Kirk Cousins is not pushing the ball downfield unless they're forced to. Even Justin Jefferson has like the 40th ranked ADOT in the league this season. And Kirk Cousins is down at like 22nd in the league in average intended air yards. So this game has a much wider range of outcomes than I think public perception is just like, oh, they're in the dome out of the weather, and Kirk Cousins has thrown for 425 yards or more each of the last 2 weeks. It's like, well, yeah, they were getting their shit stomped in the first half, which caused that. This is a very conservative offense. So that's a long story to say good win for me.
See, for me though, like Minnesota's been gashed by receivers. I mean,
yeah, but how much are they going to throw?
I mean, we'll see. I mean, I know that the Giants don't throw a lot, but you still would expect that, even in the limited opportunities they're going to have, that Slayton is still going to have, a pretty decent I know we don't want to rely on a touchdown because it's one of the most, the toughest variants to predict, but the fact that they haven't really been able to stop anyone, I mean, they've given up the most fantasy points the last 4 weeks. I think they're like 3rd on the season as well. It doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. I have them like 9 spots separated in rankings. Like I said, Goodwin probably moves up a little bit tonight before I finalize, but I see where your mind's at, and I definitely like the analysis.
I got one more for you.
Okay, go for it.
One more. The Giants have generated the fewest explosive plays in the league this season. They have only 12 rushing 12 rushes of greater than 20 yards, and they have only 21 passes all season through 14 games. So 1.5 per game of greater than 20 yards. And that's Slayton's wheelhouse. So we saw it last week. Like, they moved Slayton from this deep role and they were hitting him on these quick hits. And it's like, I don't know what to do with my hands because this isn't what I play football for. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at is game environment wise. I want exposure to Seattle as much as I can. And I think the upside
that's fair
is
enough.
though.
Okay. You're kind of convincing me right now. So.
Yeah, I didn't mean to not like that. It just I was just spewing knowledge and
I'm just looking at I pulled up like target share and snaps as we were like talking about it, and it's like 3 targets, 7 targets. The usage isn't quite there, but the matchup is juicy. Is the only thing that's kind of makes me want to go that direction. Yeah. But I get what you're saying, and I understand the usage that we're expected to see from Goodwin in a game that you're going to be trailing against Kansas City. So.
I'll put it this way: matchup is only 40% of the equation.
Yeah. Okay, I like it. We'll let you decide there, Dalton. Flip a coin.
Yeah.
We got looks like 2 more questions and we're done for the night. Browns or Chargers versus Indy? Defense.
I'll go. We'll just summarize it as #NeverChargers. We'll put it that way. Okay. They just are not generating turnover. They're not generating pressure. Just never Chargers.
And last one is Dulcich or Juwan?
Probably same tier. I think I have them ranked pretty close. I lean Dulcich just because of the wind, but I mean, we just saw last week what a athletic tight end can do in a windy game with Evan Ingram. So I don't know. It's close.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the talent, and I'm going to lean with Dulcich. I think he's the most talented player, and I'm not as concerned with the weather, but it is very close. That's it, everybody. Mark, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Loved the jumpsuit night and our aviators. Why don't you
go to bed in my pajamas now?
I'm just going to sleep in this.
This is how I live.
Why don't you tell all the subscribers where they can find you, what you're working on?
Yeah, you can find me appreciate that, man. Find me on Twitter at HiloFF up there on the board. I'm the lead NFL DFS analyst at oneweekseason.com. Handle everything from best ball to daily to season long. So check us out there. And then you can find some of my work over at NBC Sports Edge, former Roto World as well.
Awesome. Again, thanks for joining the podcast. Love your analysis. Love to pick your brain. One of the sharpest DFS guys I know, and always appreciate talking football with you. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Good luck in your matchups tomorrow, and Merry Christmas to you and your families. Take care.